Introductions. Thank you for getting the door. Appreciate that. First bill, does anybody on the committee have a bill introduction? Seeing none. First up, we have Greg Smith. Welcome back to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's always a pleasure to be here. Johnson County Sheriff's Department would like to introduce RS 0562. Has to do with ground effect lighting on vehicles. Basically, it just brings the statute up to date. The current statute refers only to neon type lighting, and this is to cover any kind of lighting that's used for ground effects.
Committee, any questions or objections? Seeing none, the bill will be introduced. Next up, we have Travis Lowe. Welcome back.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Travis Lowe from the Braden Heiner Lowe and Associates firm, here today representing AAA Kansas. We respectfully request the introduction of a bill related to the state's move-over law as it pertains to disabled vehicles on a highway. There is a draft on file with revised receivers. It is 23RS0588. Thank you so much.
Committee, any questions or objections? Seeing none, the bill will be introduced. Are there any further bill introductions? Are there any further bill introductions? I'll ask since Senator Bowers is making her way in. Today could be the last day, as we're not meeting Monday, so Friday or Monday, so I wanted to make sure we had that opportunity. We'll now turn our attention to open the hearing on Senate Bill 106. Adam, could you give us a briefing?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senate Bill 106, and quite honestly, if you have my summary, I need to update it. It would prohibit the knowingly or intentionally. I left that component out of my summary. Under the bill, there is the element of knowingly or intentionally offering for sale, or manufacturing, importing, distributing, selling, offering for sale, installing or reinstalling a device intended to replace a supplemental restraint system component of a motor vehicle. Such devices would include a counterfeit supplemental restraint system component, a non-functional airbag, or any object in lieu of a supplemental restraint system component that was not designed in accordance with federal safety regulations for the make, model, and year of the motor vehicle in which such device is or will be installed. Any person found guilty of violating the provision of this section would be guilty of a Class A non-person misdemeanor. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. First proponent we have is Don McNeely.
Mr. Chairman, I submitted written testimony.
Okay, excellent. We'll go to Craig Orland.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Craig Orland from the American Honda Motor Company, and I'm here in strong support of Senate Bill 106. Over the past several years, the auto industry has seen foreign and domestic counterfeiters flooding the market with ineffective counterfeit and non-functional airbags. These airbags are not intended to provide passengers with protection in the event of a collision. Many are filled with newspaper, styrofoam, or other debris, and others are quite literally bombs. To be clear, these are replacement airbags that our independent repair shops are installing in consumers' vehicles after they've been in an accident. These are not original airbags installed by manufacturers. These products are making their way into the vehicles of unknown consumers and have resulted in deaths and injuries all across the country. The vast majority of these products are imported from abroad, mostly from China, and our industry has been working with federal law enforcement agencies to stop these products at the border. While the federal authorities have been a tremendous help to our industry in combating this problem, they have limited authority to act. This bill would make it a crime to knowingly traffic counterfeit and non-functional airbags and would allow for state and federal cooperation to keep these products out of consumers' vehicles and prosecute repair shops that knowingly install these products in consumers' vehicles. Similar legislation has been enacted in 30 states with overwhelming bipartisan support, as well as the support of countless other stakeholders. While it's impossible to fully know the size and scope of an underground economy like this, we do know that this is a very real problem and that this bill has a real impact on public safety. We've tied these products to deaths and injuries across the country, from Maryland to Texas to California. Additionally, we found thousands of counterfeit airbags in unknown consumers' vehicles all across the country through dealer repair work. I can't speak for the rest of the industry, but Honda has worked with law enforcement because of these laws on a number of occasions. One man in North Carolina was arrested who made over $1.7 million in under a year selling over 7,000 fake airbags. And in California, we support a Los Angeles Police Department raid that was made possible by similar legislation. There, hundreds of fake airbags were found in that raid that were deemed so dangerous that the police could not take them into custody and were forced to call in the bomb squad to detonate them. With that, I strongly request that the committee pass this legislation and have Kansas enact this important consumer protection measure. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have. Thank you.
Committee questions, Senator Schallenberger.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Who makes airbags? Are there more than the manufacturer? Are there legitimate replacement airbags?
Yes, so manufacturers and legitimate suppliers make airbags. There's no law that prohibits independent or aftermarket airbags, but there is no aftermarket airbag. So it's all made by original equipment manufacturers and our legitimate suppliers.
Thank you.
Senator Reddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this would be for Kansas that we're talking about right now. It seems like it could be a federal issue, so are you also taking it up at the federal level?
We are working with the federal government as well, but in working with Homeland Security and ICE and Customs and Border Patrol, they've said enacting these state laws is the best thing we can do right now. It also allows them to target some of the repair shops and some of the smaller players who may not rise to federal prosecution level.
And with that, for a follow-up question, so what states have already adopted this?
There have been 30 of them that are in my written testimony. I'd have to go very quickly through the map, but I know it's been a mix of Democratic and Republican states. I know Colorado recently passed one, Virginia, California, Texas, New York, a vast majority of them.
Sounds good. So we're not the first state to be
No,
doing it.
you would be the 31st.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to Kansas, Craig. And we met over the summer. You represent Honda, so thank you for bringing that to our attention, and then took it to Don McNeely to analyze. So we've been working on this just a bit, and so I'm familiar with it. But tell the committee some of the items that these airbags are stuffed with, these counterfeit ones that are coming into us, because I think that's a fascinating fact.
Sure. So some of them are just airbag covers with nothing in them. Others we've seen styrofoam peanuts. We've seen newspaper, T-shirts, trash bags, sawdust, pretty much any debris you can imagine. We've seen in some cases airbags that have previously been deployed, one of which was just sort of packed up. It still had a person's lipstick on it, and airbags are never intended to be used, more than once. So we've seen a whole host of sort of horror stories in these counterfeits.
And some with the igniter, if that's the right word, some with and some without, which I think
Correct.
is scary as well. So thank you, Craig, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for bringing this bill to Kansas and testifying about it. One of the things that you and I talked about before the hearing today was what this bill would do if it were to become law is kind of fill a gap for our law enforcement community that, if I'm understanding from what you've shared before, is that right now, unless it's a fraudulent use of a trademark, there's nothing that law enforcement in Kansas can do when they discover an airbag that's counterfeit. Is that correct? And this would kind of help fill that gap. Could you talk about that?
Correct. So the federal law, our main goal is to keep these from ever getting into consumers' vehicles. So when they come in through the border, it's the federal agents who are unable to act unless they're in defense of federal trademark law. So if an airbag doesn't have a Honda H or a Ford Oval, they can't seize that product. There is no state or federal law that prohibits somebody from selling a piece of plastic that looks like an airbag cover. So they just have to let it go, and then it makes its way into the chain of commerce where it's very, very difficult to track.
And seeing that this creates a new crime that we can then prosecute if this becomes law, and it's really consumer protection and safety, because you would not know, because a consumer, if it's in the car, you can't see the airbag, you can't know until it's needed and too late. So
That's correct.
Thank you for bringing this from the industry and to the attention of the legislature. Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Corson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a big supporter of this bill. I think it's a good one. My question was, how did you arrive at the penalty being a Class A non-person misdemeanor? Is that severe enough to really create a big disincentive for folks to continue this practice? And is that consistent with the penalty level that the 30 other states have put into their statutes? If you just talk a little bit about that. Thank you.
Sure. Every state's criminal code is very unique, but it is relatively consistent in terms of jail time with what the other states have enacted. Again, our primary goal is to just put in a mechanism to keep these products out of the country. So we consider ourselves the experts on airbags and the technology, but we sort of defer to the state legislatures to determine what's the most appropriate penalty, given that they're the experts on their criminal code. But again, we do think this is a real deterrent, and it is going to be allowed to be combined with some other federal crimes as well to become a real deterrent.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that you were comfortable that the Class A non-person misdemeanor was severe enough, because I appreciate the seriousness of this, and we do definitely want to deter folks from this practice. So thank you.
We do. Thank you.
Senator Cluse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony and appreciate the conversation we had yesterday. I was just wondering, is there an area in the country that this is happening more in, or just?
As I mentioned, we've tied it to deaths all across the country. As we were pulling these out of people's vehicles, it was all over the country. It's a nationwide problem. It's not particularly focused on any one area.
Maybe a question for you, maybe a question for Adam. Would this cover those airbags where they take like an airbag, a cheaper airbag, and put it in a fake cover for the, like if you wanted, you had one for some very small car and you had one for a large vehicle and they put it in a different cover and then fill up the others?
It would cover if the vehicle diagnostic system were to detect that that airbag was not appropriate for that vehicle. So airbags are very specific, so they're for that make, model, and year of a vehicle. I'm not aware of that being a prevalent practice, but the diagnostic system should pick that up, and that would cover that action.
Excellent. Committee, further questions? Seeing none, committee note that you have written-only testimony from Don McNeely, Matthew Smith, the Director against Coalition Against Insurance Fraud, Andy Forsyth, President of Automotive Anti-Counterfeiting Council, and Nick Steingart, Director of State Auto Innovators. Is there anybody else wishing to testify as a proponent? Anybody wishing to testify as an opponent? Any neutrals? We'll close the hearing on Senate Bill 106. Committee, is there any further business to come before the committee? Committee, next week we will be meeting on Wednesday. I don't know what the topic will be. It just says meeting on call of the chair. We will. I'm not intending to meet on Monday or this Friday. So keep up the good work. We'll keep getting some days off. With that, we're adjourned.